This is the prequel to the Beast Wars show that you never knew existed. What's up everyone, James here, and I bring you Fun Publications' Transformers Timelines story called Dawn of Futures Past. Yeah, the title is a spin on X-Men Days of Future Past. Before we get into the video, make sure you hit that like button. So this opens at the capital of Cybertron, Cybertropolis, with Maximal Command's security forces, Units 1 and 2, pursuing some Predacons. Unit 1 is Tigatron, and Unit 2 is Nitro Streak. Whereas Tigatron was on the Beast Wars show, Nitro Streak only appears in this story and in the Beast Wars Uprising story. I might cover that at some point. One thing you'll notice throughout this story is that none of the Maximals and Predacons will be called or referred to by their beast form names, except Megatron and Optimus Primal. However, I will refer to all of them by their beast form names to make this easier to understand. Tigatron requests information from Maximal Defense Command about the intruders, and he's told they're after the Golden Disc, and they must prevent it from being taken. Nitro Streak asks them what the Golden Disc is. They just answer, need to know, and tell him and Tigatron that lethal force isn't authorized. They have to capture the Predacons, which Nitro Streak is shocked to hear because it's not going to be easy. But suddenly, he gets blasted. If you've seen the show, you already know who damaged Nitro Streak, and who Tigatron is currently taking fire from. Tigatron takes cover and starts laying down some cover fire, checking in with Nitro Streak, seeing if he's alive. Luckily, he is. He tells Tigatron that his transformation cog was damaged, so he's stuck in his vehicle mode, so just go after them without him. Now, who Tigatron is chasing after is Megatron, Dinobot, and Scorponok, who've successfully stolen the Golden Disc. I love Dinobot. So if you didn't know, he is the one firing at Tigatron and who damaged Nitro Streak. One thing you'll notice throughout this prequel is that if you've seen my videos covering IDW's reboot of the Beast Wars series, or have read it yourself, the way that story opened with Megatron and his Predacons stealing the Golden Disc and setting up the Beast Wars will be similar in some ways to this prequel. Megatron orders Scorponok and Dinobot to retreat, and Dinobot, whom Megatron refers to as his lieutenant, refuses because running from a battle isn't honorable. Megatron gets pissed, gripping him by the throat, ordering him to never use the word honor in his presence again. He says, "Do you know what honor is, my dear lieutenant? It's a word they carve on a dead Maximal's gravestone. We have what we came for, and now we leave." I would say Megatron and mostly all Predacons care nothing about honor. Just like their ancestors, the Decepticons, they only care about winning by any means necessary. But that's what separates Dinobot from his fellow Predacons, and makes him unique, because he lives by a code of honor. It's one of the reasons why we ended up loving him on the show, and him becoming a Maximal made sense. As they're retreating, Dinobot asks Megatron if his goal isn't the destruction of the Maximals, then what is it? Megatron answers, "You are thinking too small. This little trinket holds the key to much more than the destruction of the Maximals." Meanwhile, deep beneath Cybertropolis, this is where this prequel gets very interesting. We go to the Decepticons, and now Predacons, Buzzsaw and Laserbeak, speaking to Dive Bomb, one of the G1 Predacons, who was Megatron's secret benefactor, and has arranged everything that's currently taking place. Megatron's theft of the Golden Disc, and a ship with a transwarp drive for his Predacons to find and escape with. Now, according to Laserbeak's BotCon 2006 profile card, how he, Buzzsaw, and even Ravage, who we see on the show, came to be reformatted and become Predacons is after the Great War and the peace accord between the Autobots and Decepticons, the Pax Cybertronia was established, some Decepticons were granted amnesty. When the new Predacon faction was created, Dive Bomb, who was thought dead, secretly contacted them and arranged for them all to be reformatted into Predacon bodies. At some point, Ravage left to serve the Tripedicus Council, but Dive Bomb and Buzzsaw stayed loyal to him. By the end of this story, you'll see how he fits into all of this, and what his main goal is, and it's nuts. He tells Buzzsaw and Laserbeak they must make sure Megatron reaches his destination, but to not let their presence be known to the Maximals, as they already suspect Ravage exists. Back on the surface, Megatron radios his crew asking where his ship is. They radio answering that they'll be there soon and have named the ship Darkseid. We find out that a couple of the Predacons who stole the ship are Pterosaur and Waspinator, because Waspinator, who's called Buzzerbot, says to Megatron that Beakbot, who is Pterosaur, won the contest to name the ship. The ship arrives and they begin their escape. Tigatron sees this and asks Maximal Command for clearance to commandeer a ship and chase after the Darkseid. They grant him his request, and that's when he comes across Airazor asking to commandeer her ship. She initially refuses, saying that only she pilots her ship, which she calls the Chromia 10, likely named after the Autobot Chromia. However, she starts to flirt with Tigatron, hinting that he might be able to persuade her though. This is funny because if you've seen the Beast Wars show, these two become a couple, and eventually become the most powerful Transformer in the series, Tigerhawk. Tigatron tells her about the Predacons having stolen a vital artifact, and that he'll just use another ship if she doesn't let him use hers to chase them down. Her hearing that he's on a chase excites her, so she tells him to get on the ship with her and strap in. At Maximal Defense Command, they discuss everything that's been reported so far, like how Maximal agents failed to stop the theft of the Golden Disc, and how they have identified the leader of the Predacons responsible for the theft as Megatron, that when they reached out to the Tripredacus Council about the robbery, they denied any involvement, and claimed they've been trying to capture Megatron themselves. Since the Predacons stole a ship with a transwarp drive, they deduced they need a ship with a transwarp drive to track and chase them, because if the Predacons transwarp before a ship can track them, they'll become undetectable. They find the only ship that's close to the Darkseid and faster than it is Optimus Primal's science vessel, the Axelon. They're hoping Primal can get to Megatron before he and his Predacons, in a few cycles, can get any information from the Golden Disc. That's where we head next, Optimus Primal's Axelon at a space station, where Rat Trap, as always, is complaining about something. Notice near them is the stasis pod Protoform X, which we're going to talk about in a second here. Rat Trap is complaining to Cheetor about how they've been stuck at the space station for weeks, loading cargo onto the ship, and now Primal told them they have to load even more. Rhinox interrupts, telling them Optimus wants to see them. Now, elsewhere in deep space, Laserbeak and Buzzsaw are following the Darkseid from a distance. Divebomb orders them to remain undetected and to scan all frequencies, because he's sure Maximal Command will send a ship to try to intercept the Darkseid. If they do, their main objective will be to destroy it and leave no survivors. A few cycles later, Optimus Primal reveals to the Maximal crew that they came to this space station as a favor for the Maximal High Council, to help, quote, clean up a mistake. Now, that favor and mistake both relate to Protoform X. Let me explain. So Protoform X is the intelligent, cunning, and yet insane cannibal Rampage. Absolutely one of my favorite Predacons. In the Beast Wars show, we learn he was a Maximal experiment trying to recreate Starscream's mutant immortal spark. It was successful, but Rampage was left unstable. He was held at Colony Omicron, but escaped and killed almost every Transformer there. The only survivor was the colony's security chief, the Maximal Depth Charge, whom we met on the show. The massacre haunted him. Driven by survivor's guilt, he hunted down Rampage and brought him back to Cybertron. But not before Rampage destroyed Starbase Rugby and ate all the inhabitants there. Now, not able to kill him, the Maximal High Council had Rampage placed into a stasis pod. They asked Optimus Primal to dump the pod in the Alpha Quadrant, somewhere far and barren, so that's how Protoform X has ended up on the Axelon. Now, Cheetor announces an incoming audio transmission from Maximal Command, who orders them to intercept the Darkseid and reclaim the Golden Disc, because the future of Cybertron may depend on it. When Optimus Primal reminds them about the mission to drop Protoform X off, they tell him that his new mission takes priority. Primal accepts the mission, but before the Axelon can act, Laserbeak and Buzzsaw launch a surprise attack. The Maximals try to return fire, but the Predacon Bros ship does so much damage to the Axelon that it stops it in its tracks. Primal asks for a damage report, and Rhinox informs him that the shields and engines are down, and that the energon flow is locked. Just as the Predacon duo are about to make another pass to attack the Axelon, Airazor radios the Axelon saying help is here. Primal orders the crew to repair their ship. The fight between Airazor's Chromia and the Predacon Bros ship goes back and forth until they land a hit on her ship. She radios the Axelon and reports that she's lost have her controls. Just when the Predacons fire their missiles at Chromia, that's when the Axalon's weapons come online, and Rat Trap fires their rockets at the Predacon ship. Laserbeak and Buzzsaw are destroyed with their ship in a huge explosion. Now, their missiles did hit Chromia, and Primal asks how the ship is, and Cheetor answers that it's not good. The 2 Maximal signals within it are faint, and the ship's reactor is unstable. With no time to repair it, Primal asks the crew for suggestions, and Rhinox, the ship's science officer, suggests a remote spark transfer, transferring Airraiser and Tigatron sparks into 2 of the blank protoform pods they have. However, since he isn't properly set up for that procedure, they both will lose much of their core mainframe. Primal orders him to do it anyway. So that explains why in the show, both of them have no recollection of having met before, or of saving the Axalon. Half a megacycle later, aboard the dark side, Megatron asks Tarantulas, who he has analyzing the golden disc, what he's learned, and Tarantulas answers that he needs more time. Megatron gets pissed with him and just demands to know if he has the coordinates yet. When Tarantulas informs him he does, Megatron orders him to bring them and the golden disc to the bridge. Pterosaur alerts Megatron about the Maximal ship closing in on them. Megatron orders preparations for a transwarp jump. Dinobot objects to this because it would be them running away from a fight yet again. He demands they destroy them, but Megatron backhands him, ordering the transwarp jump to continue and to hail the Maximal ship. The Maximals accept his coded signal, and Megatron says, "Allow me to introduce myself. I am Megatron, leader of the Predacons." Optimus Primal replies, "By the order of the Maximal High Council, you are commanded to shut down your engines and surrender the artifact you stole." Megatron plays it coy and assures him there's been a misunderstanding and that Dinobot will be happy to reveal their intentions. Dinobot fires on the Axalon, and the dark side opens a transwarp portal and enters it. Optimus Primal says, "Full power to forward thrusters, follow them." The Axalon heads into the transwarp portal, chasing after the dark side, and the portal closes behind them. That begins Transformers Beast Wars. Now, this is where the story transitions to after the Beast Wars and Beast Machines. Precisely 50 to 100 years after Beast Machines, according to the writer behind this story, Pete Sinclair. Someone speaking to Dive Bomb, now in a techno-organic form. Remember, that's the exact form the Maximals were reformatted to in Beast Machines. This individual asks him what happened to the golden disc after the Beast Wars. Dive Bomb answers that it was lost, that everyone who knew of its secrets is long gone. This individual then asks about Megatron. Dive Bomb answers that he perished in the battle for the sparks. He says his megalomania caused him to lose focus. He was a poor vessel for our purpose. But the Decepticon destiny of old will be realized, now that the true leader of the Predacons has returned. Under your leadership, we will once again rise and reclaim Cybertron. This individual Dive Bomb is speaking to is revealed to be Razorclaw, revived in a techno-organic form, and with him are the rest of the Predacons, also revived in techno-organic forms. He says, "Then it is time. The Maximals will again tremble before the might of Razorclaw and the Predacons." One of the best cliffhanger endings to a Transformers story ever. That unfortunately remains a cliffhanger and is never heard from again. Here's why. According to the TF Wiki, this comic was based on a story concept originally pitched to Dreamwave Productions. The idea was for a 3-volume series spanning the 300-year gap between the G1 Transformers era and the Transformers Beast Wars era, with 6 issues per volume, for a total of 18 issues. However, Dreamwave went bankrupt, so the idea was pitched again to Fun Publications, but proved to be too ambitious for them at the time, and was ultimately trimmed down to this single issue, which is primarily based on what would have been Volume 3's final chapter of the series. More than likely, had we gotten the original 18 issues and they proved successful, we might have gotten a series focusing on the revived Predacons returning to conquer Cybertron. Well, that's the end of the video. I hope you all enjoyed it. Hit that like button if you did, comment your thoughts below, and subscribe to the channel. I would greatly appreciate it. If you want more Beast Wars content, check out IDW's rebooted Beast Wars series right here, or the secret Beast Wars spinoff you never heard of right here. Other than that, have an awesome day, and always remember every day to go beyond.